Welcome to State of Mind.
We're your co-hosts,
Kinwooly Akwam,
and I'm Leah Neal.
and we're excited to dive into this conversation with you.
Yes. So let's get into it,
Yeah.
especially with like COVID. We'll
COVID
see.
was 6 years ago.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
But the like mental ramifications of that will stay with us forever.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
I think we all, as a society, have like a heightened sense of anxiety, like social anxiety.
Oh, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Today, I wanted to talk about perception, brand, like authenticity. We'll see where the conversation goes. And I did want to like also bring up something the other day. We were trying to come up with a title for one of our previous episodes, and originally like we had like how to, and then we decided against that because we were like, we don't want it to be like a how to or to life
Like
improvement, self-improvement type. And yeah, it was interesting that was like through the lens of the title, but I think that was a nice reflection of how we're going about the pod as a whole as well. We're not telling you what to do. We're not telling you like how to think. We're just figuring it out and like thinking out loud with each other.
Yeah.
And if that can influence or give our audience any ideas, that's like all we could really ask for, especially in a creator economy where a lot of people speak with such authority as if somehow
They're the experts.
They're the expert, and you're listening to them and you see the captions go across the screen and you just take it as fact because they're presenting it to you as fact. We didn't really want to do that with ours.
Yeah, because we are on a journey and we know that we're not alone on this journey. So part of this is putting a mic to the conversations we're already having, but also inviting you guys into the conversation with us. It's been fun seeing some of the comments on Spotify already, or even some of the messages that we've received, or even some of the conversations that I've like been having in person with friends. It's great to know that we aren't on this journey alone. But because we're on this journey, we're admitting that we have a lot to learn, and so presenting a manual of how to do X, Y, or Z on topics that we're still trying to figure out on our own wouldn't feel as authentic. So that's the space we're creating here.
Yeah. Okay, so bring it back to perception and brand. I was listening to a podcast with Paris Hilton as a guest, and she this was actually on the Emma Greed podcast, Aspire, and it was about like branding. Of course, like people can very quickly pinpoint exactly like what Paris Hilton's brand is. It's like girly, it's pink.
Yeah, when I think of Paris Hilton, I think of pink.
Yeah.
And like a specific shade of pink.
Yeah,
like that cotton candy type pink.
Yeah, like candy, like bubble gum.
Bubble gum,
sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. Also, wanted to give Paris a shout out because she's an Aquarius. I'm also an Aquarius.
Shout out to Paris Hilton.
Yeah. We know you're listening. But I loved what she had to say. It was just so eye-opening. I'm so interested in the topic of brand because I think it's something normal people, civilians, underestimate. Like when we think brands, we think celebrities, right? Because celebrities need to like be known, like very... I heard someone put it into these terms, like your brand should be so potent that it should be easy to dress up as you for Halloween. Like that's the celebrities version of that. So you have Charlie XCX. She has like her brat, and then like she wears like a tank top and like underwear and stockings and sunglasses. And then Paris Hilton, pink. What's interesting is how she leverages how people perceive her and coupling that with what she's actually trying to accomplish. So she leverages people's perception of her as being like a dumb blonde and just doesn't take anything seriously, but she uses it and capitalizes on it in order to like get things done, like get bills passed in Congress. And she's a philanthropist as well, and then she's also a business like media mogul too, and really capitalizes on that brand. So I was thinking about that like in a more like lay person sense of course, like we're not all like Charlie XCX or Paris Hilton, but how can we channel that in our day to day? And this kind of also continues from our conversation about hobbies and like hobbies over time, like shaping who you are as a person. Because I know like there's a difference between like how people I know like in other cultures introduce themselves versus how people in America introduce themselves as like,
oh, interesting,
like what they do like in America, like hi, like where do you work, like why is that the first question? Like yeah, it's so sad.
It's like a script that we all follow. Yeah, that's really interesting. I do think we all have a brand. I've heard people talk about brands as what people say about you when you're not in the room, which can be what you do. You know, like that's the consultant. But yeah, so what you do for work, it could also be your hobbies. It can be like your past accolades. And of course, it varies depending on what rooms you're being spoken about in. So I'm sure like at work, it would be a record of like how you've worked in the past. Like she's really good at X or good at Y. Whereas like in a room full of friends that you might not be in, they're like, oh yeah, Kimalia's like, I don't know, she's the cookie girl. I don't know. Hopefully
no, but exactly to that point, it's only when people are like describing you when you're not in the room. So oftentimes there's that disconnect between how we understand ourselves with how other people see us.
Oh,
because it's very rare, like unless you're like intentionally having these conversations, do people actually tell you like, oh, this is like what I peg you as?
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
I think more people, and like myself included, we should have these conversations with our friends to like understand how other people understand us and see us.
Yeah.
And see if it is in alignment with who we feel that we are.
Yeah. It's like the difference between how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. I think, it sounds like Paris Hilton has a really strong pulse of her brand, and she's like very much in control of her brand because she knows how she's perceived and she knows what she wants to do with that, and so she's utilizing that brand image to achieve the goals that she's looking for. But I don't think if she didn't have a strong pulse on how she was perceived, how she leveraged her brand would be a misalignment. Totally. And I would imagine she wouldn't have been as effective.
Yeah. Knowing how you're being perceived is such a superpower and like an overlooked thing. I was running into this like more recently, like post MBA, or maybe even like going into business school applications. Like, who are you? Like, what do you stand for? Like, how do you present yourself when you're introducing yourself, like in interviews, or like when people only have like a quick little first impression of you? It is so important to understand how you're perceived versus how you want to be perceived, because there might be some work that you'll need to do in order to bridge that gap. Because I also do feel like we just operate on this pretense of making snap judgments. It's just very human, like having prejudices and like biases and stereotypes. It's just like the brain's quick way of understanding. And I can see how like sometimes when I meet new people, or like people have a preconceived notion of me, and then like when they meet me, I can see sometimes they're like a little uncomfortable with like, or not everyone, sometimes like rarely, like they're a little uncomfortable with like how I don't meet how they thought I would operate. Have you ever felt that?
Maybe. Give me an example.
Okay, so because I've been thinking about this a lot, like I'm half African American, half Chinese, and like phenotypically I'm Black, and so people have the stereotype of like, okay, this is how you should be acting. This is how I expect you to act. But I'm more like, I've been brought up more in the Chinese like culture and tradition. So even though like I'm Black, I act more Chinese and I think more Chinese. And because that's not so common, sometimes people have a hard time reconciling that.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think I've heard someone say, "Oh, you're actually approachable," which I and I.
Oh yes, I remember you telling me this.
Yeah,
like,
and I think, yeah, sometimes I can show up as maybe not being as approachable, especially like if I'm, I don't know, in the gym with my headphones on, I'm just like lifting weights or something. I'm not approachable on the outside, but if you come up to me, I'm a pretty smiley person. And I like to talk to people. I like to make people feel warm and welcomed. But I've heard people say that they weren't expecting that before initially, or like they didn't think I would be as approachable as I was.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, something to your point about brand being important. I want to talk about that a little bit more, because the line that we have to toe when we're like defining and utilizing our brand is being confident in who we are, and like so much so that we don't feel the need to change for someone or a group or whatever environment we're in, but also recognizing that we are being perceived and making sure that it's consistent with what we want to say. When I think about brand, I don't just think about like what you, I know I gave examples like your hobbies or your accolades, but I also think about brand in the context of like how you show up in a room, what you're wearing, how you're engaging with someone else when they're speaking, whether you're on time, like that sort of thing. It's also how you behave. The question that I'm now starting to answer is why is brand important?
Yeah. That reminds me of this saying, even before I started thinking about brand, like years before this, you've probably heard this as well. Dress for the job that you want.
Yeah.
Like not the one that you have or whatever, if you're trying to switch jobs. So that it does reflect that a bit already. If you want to be taken seriously, you gotta show up seriously. Or even in relationships, like if you want to attract a certain type of partner, you have to embody the elements of that partner. You can't just expect to have like a really ripped partner, but like you don't even go to the gym, like something like that, you know? So matching the frequency of the thing that you want to attract, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And then maybe this is like the counter argument to this, or maybe the fine balance of this. I've also been thinking about how it's okay to be misunderstood sometimes. You don't need to fight to always explain yourself.
Oh yeah.
I think that reflects a bit of picking and choosing your battles. Like, when is it necessary for me to really get people to understand me, and when is it okay for me to just let them think what they're gonna think?
Yeah. I really like that.
I saw like a TikTok a few months ago that has always stayed with me. It was this guy who was saying, basically alluding to like, it's okay to be misunderstood. Like what he was saying was that people's access to you is a gift. Like not everyone deserves or like needs to hear everything that there is to hear about you, or like know everything that there is to know about you. So you don't need to fill in the gaps for them, because that's just a lot of work, and not everyone deserves that.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that today we forget that someone else's access to us is a gift, especially in the age of social media, where things people are doing every second is posted. But that also reminds me that on such a curated feed, we're walking around allowing people to misunderstand who we are. Like, we all know that social media is a highlight reel, right? But we're showing a facet of ourselves, but that's not our whole self. And there are tons of gaps. And on the other side of the screen, we know that there are gaps in our understanding, but we allow them to perpetuate. And I don't think that's like necessarily all bad, but it just is a good reminder that like it's sometimes okay to be misunderstood. There are some rooms though where it's important to make sure you're coming across clearly, or what you want to communicate is coming across clearly in that environment for whatever opportunity might be on the other side. And it's also like that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. It's like being able to articulate who you are, what you stand for. Those are areas where you don't want to be misunderstood. And people may try to like twist what you're saying, or think differently of your intentions. You can't control that. But making sure that how you are communicating what you stand for is authentic and as clear and true to you as possible, I think is really important.
Yeah. Like, they don't need to know the whole story as long as they know the core elements of your story.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry. I think you brought up like two things. So we covered the second one. The first one, you're kind of getting at like the highlight reel and how maybe I'm understanding it is like people can really benefit from people knowing less about them and just like filling the gaps with what they think would be the idealized version, right, of that person. So that's like what kind of constitutes that highlight reel, right?
I don't necessarily know if people benefit from it, but I just think that's like the reality of today, is that we are looking at people's highlight reels and we may think we know them. It's like kind of like celebrities, right? Like them having Instagrams gives us a bit more access into their lives, and so we assume we know them. We know who they're dating. We know what their style is like, but we don't actually know them.
We know what they want us to know.
Exactly.
And that's why I was thinking of celebrities. Like, when you brought that up, like a lot of celebrities don't have they're not very active. Beyonce, not active. Like, we don't hear her thoughts like on social media. Like, she stopped doing interviews like 20 years ago or something. Zendaya, like she's not active. Everything is like very curated. Like Emma Stone, Jennifer Lawrence, like people that like even celebrities that people love and think that they understand their personalities, they're not so active on social because they don't want to dilute this, I don't know, idealized version that people have of them with more information. They would rather just keep that mystery so that people can fill in the gaps.
That is like helping curate their brand. But I'd imagine that maybe the right word, actually, going back on what I said earlier, isn't that they're misunderstood, but it's that they're just selectively showing us pieces of themselves to perpetuate the brand that they want us to want us to know, or want us to associate with them. Have you heard of like a crush is just a lack of information? A what? A crush is just a lack of information. No, I haven't. So it's basically something similar to that as well. Like when you have crushes, it's just because you're projecting an idealized version of this person onto the person. Yes. And you haven't actually gotten to know them like through and through to like make a sound judgment on exactly who this person is. So in the meantime, you're just filling the gaps with who you think or hope that they are. Yeah. It actually, so I don't follow actors or actresses that I like because I followed the couple and I was really disappointed by them. The couple? I followed a few actors in the past and I was really disappointed by them. I was like, who is the couple? I followed a few of them in the past and I was really disappointed. So I was like, you know what? Let me just like not follow. Yeah. And I think before I decided to not follow them, I've reflected and I was like, is that wrong of me to be disappointed that they're not who they were like inside that movie or whatever? You know, like I felt like I was almost like let down. But then I'm like, Kimalia, People are allowed to be who they are. But I also get to decide whether or not I'm opting in or opting out. And I think this goes back to what you were saying before, where it's like, it's okay to be misunderstood. That's like, I think the people pleaser in us, I'm saying because it sounds like this might resonate, is one in which you want everyone to approve of of your actions, of your thoughts, whatever. But people might not. And that's okay. Like, it's totally normal. In an age, I feel like I keep like going down on social media, but in an age of social media where there is a heightened amount of access and there are more ways where people can show, like, express approval, it almost feels like you should be doing things for likes. You should be doing things for praise or accolades or comments, any like showing of approval. But yeah, that isn't always the case. That like reminder that it's okay to be misunderstood is a helpful like resetting there.
Yeah. And I know you wanted to talk about authenticity as well. So I think this like ties well into that too. But you want to, your vibe attracts your tribe. So your vibe is going to be someone's cup of tea, and then it's also not going to be the next person's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah, you're not going to be for everyone. But of the people that you are for, like, it's so great that you get to find them because you're being true to who you are.
So knowing that it's okay to be misunderstood, what does staying true to yourself look like without qualifiers or having to explain or over-explain who you are?
I'm like, okay, yeah, I have an answer. What?
Sorry, it's hard. Okay.
Wait, yes, say it again. No, but just say it again. I think it was just like a very meaty question, so it might just take me a second.
Okay. Understanding that it's okay to be misunderstood. What does staying true to yourself look like? Recognizing that everyone might not get it. Like, how do you become content with,
like, how do you just accept that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea? How do you stop being a people pleaser?
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah, I think this podcast is a really nice example of that. Just because, yeah, I mean, like, I think out of fear, a lot of people don't do a lot of things. And the fear is from judgment or like fear of like polarizing people with your opinions. But I have been thinking about this, like, when you keep asking yourself why, like, you're doing basically the therapy with yourself, just asking, like, peeling back the layers, like, what is the root of your inaction or action? Like, why are you scared to start a podcast? Oh, because what if, like, people don't like what we're saying? And then it's like, okay, why do you care what people say
about what you're saying?
Yeah, about your podcast? Like, what it comes down to, it's like crazy, because I think that's why it's good to do this exercise of keep asking why and why and why, because at the core, once you say it out loud and actually put words to it, you realize that it's so silly. So the core of that, like, I don't want people to, like, not enjoy the podcast, or why do I feel that way about it? Because I don't want haters. And like, why don't you want haters? Like, because I don't know, like, I want to please my haters. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
So, and then you end up like living for your haters. Like, you end up silencing yourself. Were you silent or were you silenced? As Oprah likes to say. She said that once.
Yeah, she said that once. But it was a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. You're essentially putting your life into someone else's hands that, like, you wouldn't even want to hang out with. Like, why would you make decisions around someone that you don't even you wouldn't trade your life for, you know? Yeah. So that's my example. How would you answer that question?
Well, so asking yourself why and continuing to do that until you get to the root is an engineering framework. It's called the 5 whys, basically. But to understand the root cause of an issue, you continue to ask why and dig deeper. The idea is that you get to the root cause by the fifth why. So
is it always 5?
I mean, I don't think it's always 5. I think sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but that level of depth, like every time you answer that question, it gets deeper and deeper, and it lands you at whatever the root cause might be. So I like that application to life, and more specifically authenticity as well. Like, why aren't we showing up the way we know is like true of us? Why are we living for the approval of other people, that sort of thing? You asked me what about like how I'd answer the question. What was the question again?
It was your question.
Yeah, I know.
It was so meaty.
One thing I've been doing a lot recently is, I shouldn't say a lot, but I try to do like a couple times a month is journaling. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier, being able to put words to what I'm thinking or feeling helps make some of the things that feel like crazy or like really stressful it helps bring it into perspective. And and just reflecting on those experiences really helps things that might feel like super stressful or like very awkward or like out of the norm feel a bit less abnormal. I think just creating space to reflect and to really process what I'm feeling is how I found myself like staying grounded and rooted. I also think that, and there are other exercises that people, or like practices that people do. I've heard people like meditating. For me, like praying is important as well. Things that like slow my body down, like stretching. But yeah, just allowing myself, like practices that force myself to be in tune with myself and process what I've been feeling or what I've been experiencing. Because in New York too, life just moves so quickly. There's always an event. There's so many things all the time. I heard one turn on TikTok that in New York City, boredom is a choice, and it's so true. And I don't often find myself choosing boredom or choosing like slowing down, but especially as someone who is an internal processor, finding like creating the space to slow down, think, process, just be bored for a little bit is core to making sure I am staying true to who I am. Because like the more time that goes by without me doing that, the less in touch I am with myself.
You mentioning boredom reminded me of when I was in college. I remember that I literally said this to friends. I was like, I'm either bored and depressed or busy and stressed.
Oh my gosh.
And I think it was because I was not comfortable with like things not going on. Like there was always something going on. And like
that's real.
I got used to that discomfort of at least I'm busy and stressed. I would rather do that and like be in that headspace and feel like I'm doing something productive. I'm like moving towards something, as opposed to like, yeah, it was crazy that I just like equated being bored with depression.
Yeah, I know.
Because I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So I think now, I'm totally fine. Like being like having nothing going on. And I definitely relish in that. But it is interesting that you bring that up, because it has me reflecting on how I used to see boredom and now how I actually appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you were going to talk about a song.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's this song by Neil Diamond called I Am, I Said. It's like one of his popular songs, but I hadn't heard it. This is like from the 70s. He's the big artist behind Sweet Caroline. Everyone knows that one. So anyway, I met this person. We were just like chatting casually, and I was just telling him about like how I was born and raised in New York, but lived in California for a little bit. And he was like, oh, you need to listen to this song called I Am, I Said. Like, look it up. Like, it's like, it describes your situation. The song basically explores themes of like loneliness and searching for identity. I don't think the guy who recommended I listen to it was talking about it from that aspect, but Neil Diamond is singing about being a born and bred New Yorker, but having moved to LA and feeling just out of place. He's like kind of like caught in that liminal space, that in between, and he can't really say who he is or what he stands for, or like why does he still feel lonely after like so much success as well. So I found that like it was interesting that I was recommended to listen to this song, because I felt that like, yes, there's a New York, California piece to it, but then it was so much more than that as well. The song, like Neil goes on, also Neil, last name Neil. The song also like goes on to navigate like feeling lost, feeling unmoored. I love that like terminology, just like you're not rooted, so like who are you? Not belonging anywhere, not fitting neatly into a box, feeling misunderstood. So that's why he keeps saying like I said in the chorus, because that's his way of grounding himself again in a world where he didn't feel like his essence was really reflected back to him. I think it all comes back to like, yeah, you could be going through a lot of change, but also find ways to ground yourself in just saying like, I am who I am. Like, it may not fit your definition of what you think I should be, but I am who I am. Like, I said.
I want to listen to that song now. I've never heard it.
Yeah, it was my first time hearing it.
It sounds, it's really deep. He's exploring these ideas of identity and how complex it is to navigate a world where you don't see your identity reflected. And maybe even like accepted in a way. Correct me there. But I think this also makes me think of
Lady Gaga. How do you think as I was talking about, it was reminding me of Born This Way.
Oh, interesting.
Like you just are. Like sometimes if you do feel like, oh, I can't really brand myself, maybe you don't need to like succinctly say who you are. Like you just are. And maybe there are going to be chapters where, especially as you're evolving, you're like in that between stage and there's no name for it, there's no archetype for it, so maybe it's just as easy to say that you are.
But I think what makes it difficult today is that we are constantly like forced to put ourselves in sorts of boxes, right? The race box, right? I felt like, to your example earlier about being Black and Chinese, once people see you, they put you into a box of what a woman who is Black presenting should be like. And then it's like shocking to people when like a lot of your upbringing and your culture is like you said, the way you act is Chinese. I think that what makes identity tough in a world that isn't reflected back to you is the fact that identity isn't a series of boxes, right? It's like there's a lot more gray than there is black and white. And it's a bit unsettling to be in the gray a bit. But as I'm saying this out loud, I realize that the best way we can represent ourselves is by first choosing to accept that we may not see who we are reflected back to us. And that is totally okay. Like, we have to learn how to be okay with that. I found myself in a lot of rooms where I'm the only. In my first internship, I was the only woman and the only Black person. Then I started working on diesel engines and electric powertrain. It's just not a very diverse space. I lived in a town that was 2% Black. I constantly felt unrepresented by the communities I lived in. And I have had to learn how to just get super comfortable with that and figure out how to find people that could relate to a facet of me, even if they couldn't relate to who I am completely. So, for example, getting involved in communities like going to church, I found other Christians. Going to the gym, I found other people that like to work out. Going on hikes when I was invited, I found people who like the outdoors. And in all of those spaces, I've always felt like I didn't quite fit in. but I was content knowing that like I still had a little bit of community, even if we didn't agree on everything. And I think that is like part of, going back to what I was saying earlier, part of accepting your identity or being able to say those like I said statements is by recognizing that there may not always, like you, in a lot of scenarios, you may be the only person, right? And so long as you choose you, like that needs to be enough.
Yeah. A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I totally get it. It was just a lot. But yeah, like you said, it's really hard to find people who are exactly the makeup that you are. And you got to get creative. Like you're not going to feel totally 100% like aligned with people of this group, but at least they fulfill one area of your life and make you feel seen and valued in that one area. I think your life and how you bring people together is like a mosaic, like a collection of all your different interests and your background. Like it's so hard to find like, or a group of like Black women diesel engineers from middle of America who pivoted into consulting and went to Ivy League.
Yeah.
So you just have to find people who fit maybe one or two of those things and have them to connect on with, like at that level, and then kind of piece your quilts or like your mosaic all together.
I once heard someone say that the extent to which you accept yourself is limited by the extent to which you accept your story, like your own like life story.
I think the reason why this wasn't so like clean cut is because like we're just thinking out loud as we're speaking. And this is all like very new. When you're younger, you're just defined by like, oh, where you went to school, like the sport that you did. It's very clear like who you are, but as you grow older, you have more hobbies, you have more interests, you become a more multidimensional person.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Part of the reason we don't think about personal branding when we're younger is because our brands are defined for us by the schools we went to, the extracurriculars we're a part of, what types of students we were, that sort of thing. But as we get older and there's a lot of like self-definition happening in our lives, without even realizing it,
and we also more variables. We become more multidimensional.
Yeah, we become far more multidimensional. We don't think about what this says, what brands we're defining for ourselves. I feel like it's often an afterthought. But going back to what you'd mentioned at the beginning of the episode, like the best people, I think the people that do it really well, have a pulse on how people are perceiving them and are able to use that brand to their advantage, like a Paris Hilton being the example. And I think we have so many examples of that too. Beyond Paris Hilton, I'm thinking of like Kim Kardashian. She came to class during my time at HBS to speak, and it was very clear. It was like a master class in owning your brand.
Okay, wait, so she literally talked about this?
No, she didn't talk about it, but like the way she did speak and communicate, for me, was like a masterclass in owning your brand. So over winter break, we have 1 week period where you can take a class. And the class I took was moving beyond direct to consumer brands. And they'd invited quite a few people to speak. Kim Kardashian was one of them. And she was talking about the Skims line. And whenever she was asked questions about like the business behind it, she would defer to her business partner. When asked questions about the impact her image might have on her brand, she would take it back to the product. She would say, to sum it up, try the product for yourself type thing. Like she believes that the product speaks for herself. And when talking about like her career, she talked about her accomplishments. She talked about the fact that she's a mom and is in law school and some of the goals that she has. And so it's like, on the one hand, she understood that her brand her brand has like given her a platform, but she didn't like press into some of the, I guess, some of the more like controversial parts of her story. She pressed into the parts that were a bit more humanizing about her. Because I think people are very quick to like cut her down. She either has like fans or haters. I feel like there are very many people that are impartial about Kim Kardashian. And she leveraged that to create a great product. I'm a huge Skims fan, by the way. She used it to create a great product. And then when it came to communicating who she was talking about it from the perspective of things that I feel like a lot of us can relate to, being a student, being family oriented. And then when it came to conversations that I felt like might have been a bit more out of her like expertise, she was deferring to her business partner who was an expert in that space. And I felt like in that I was seeing someone who was very aware of their perception and like used it to build her brand, quite literally, Skims, but then also like welded it to like connect to her audience.
Yeah, a couple things there. I think knowing your brand, thus meaning you know your strengths, and also you're aware of your weaknesses. So that's why she brought in a co-founder, a partner, to help make up for the areas that she lacked, while focusing on her value, which was like all the things that you just said. The second thing is the importance of controlling the narrative, controlling your narrative.
Yeah.
Because you want to tailor it towards exactly the type of demographic that you want to be selling to. So you're going to make sure that you tailor your story to align with all the things that those people would align with. Because if you're spraying and praying, like putting everything about you out there, like it's just going to fall flat because people are going to be like, what?
Oh, you just did that. I thought
What did I do? What did
you
I
did that with your hands?
Oh, spraying and praying.
Yeah.
It's just going to fall flat and like not really resonate so clearly when you're like trying to be everything. And yeah, that's why it's so important to like have a brand, even though like, yeah, we are all multidimensional. And this is like, I've fallen trapped to this before too. Like when I was like swimming professionally, like when you're like an athlete, people are probably like known for something beyond just like their sport or their accolades. But I never wanted to be pigeonholed because I was like, oh, I'm like more than just like one thing or two things. But that's like the only way people can really understand you. So being okay, maybe this is like all to sum this up. Hopefully I can do this. Being okay with like people understanding that you're like 1, 2, or 3 things, but knowing, and like your close friends knowing, your family knowing that you're so much more than that. But for the masses, all that they need to know is just like the 3 things about you.
Yeah. And that is how you control your brand. Yeah, I think that's a great I think that's a great place to end. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast of State of Mind.
I know we covered a lot today, so would love if you can leave comments if you're interested in this conversation, like where you want us to double down on. I think that would give us really good feedback on exactly what to do some more research on.
Exactly where to go next.
Yeah, and like what to discover.
And we'd also love to hear your thoughts. Leave comments, let us know what resonates, and tune in next week for the podcast. Thank you guys.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.